Yeah, so I thought we'd go through some of the things that have been posted to a Twitter account called Libs of TikTok, which is Generation Z leftists on TikTok explaining how the world works. And we don't know how the world works, obviously, so we need to take to our moral authorities of TikTok to explain to us what right and wrong are and how the world operates. Let's play the first one.
Hey, and thank you for asking. So my pronouns are she, her. And I also wanted to let you all know that I'm comfortable with both masculine and feminine gendered terms. For those of you that don't know what gendered terms are, some examples of masculine gendered terms are like dude or man, so saying like, hey dude, or what's up man. And some examples of feminine gendered terms are like, hey girl, hey queen, that kind of stuff. And as a side note, I know some people use these in a gender neutral way. I used to use dude a lot in a gender neutral way, but it's important to remember even if you're planning on using them in a gender neutral way, they are still gendered terms. So some people may not be comfortable being called them. It's always best to ask. Second side note, even though I'm comfortable being called feminine gendered terms, please don't call me cis if you're not another Indigenous person, unless I've invited you to. Cis is a term of endearment within the Indigenous community that we use to identify each other. So I'm not comfortable being called it by non-Indigenous people. Never call me cis in a sarcastic way.
Okay, you listening, Callum? Are you taking that lesson from her?
I found that really funny that she said, even though you mean it this way, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The context doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, every black rapper going to jail for racism.
Ooh.
Because that's how that works.
But the term dude, I'm actually really annoyed that this has been co-opted by leftists and saying, oh no, this is a gendered pronoun. No, it's not. Like, sorry, you know, I realize that you're 12 years old and you just realize the world exists, but things existed long before you, and I was one of those things, and I was using the term dude for everyone, you know, when I was basically your age, so shut up, kid. And honestly, you look like an actual explosion in a paint factory. Like, sorry. But
actually, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't know why there are so many TikTokers, let's say. It just looks such a mess.
It just looks like, oh, look, my new paint kit's arrived. Poof.
Like, they make Big Red look conservative.
Yes, they do. Anyway, let's go on to the next one.
Being rich is a crime against humanity. Greed hasn't always been considered good. We could distribute the things that everybody needs, so no one has more wealth than any person should. Here's a story about a guy named Uli Mornak, a property owner in medieval Switzerland. He threw his weight around and only ever had his own back, and said he could do whatever he wanted with his land. Well, an old lady stopped to get some water one day, but Uli noticed she was on his property, so he beat her up and went to court and lied through his teeth, and laughed about it with his friends later that week. Now today his wealth might be desirable, but back then he was a villain and a crook. So the people of the town got together one night and murdered him and then got off the hook.
That's justice.
That's leftist justice.
Mm.
I love this. Every form of socialism is just which group of people do we murder to fix the world's problems.
Murder is good if you're a communist. There's a bunch of people we need to murder, and it's the rich. Because being rich is a crime against humanity, don't you know?
Yeah.
Amazing.
You get that with the class socialists, but the race socialists just kill all the white people.
Yeah.
Gendered socialists just kill all the men.
Yeah.
And then everything will be fixed. Won't it?
Yeah. There is a group of people that they need to kill, and they're not shy about telling you who they are. And they're going to sit there in a Soviet Union t-shirt and say, hey, we should murder people. Listen to this story about someone getting murdered. This is good. That's such an evil thing. This is just, they don't understand. The very act of murdering someone is in and of itself evil.
Well, they're not murdering someone in their mind, are they? I mean, like the Nazis who murdered the Jews, they're like, no, they're rodents or something.
Yeah, they're not people, they're parasites because they've committed crimes against humanity. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of, John. This Simpsons image
on screen.
Yeah, where literally just exploded in her face.
How to be a TikToker starter pack.
Anyway, let's play the next one. Let's talk about black crime rates.
Black neighborhoods are over-policed, so of course they have higher rates of crime. And white perpetrators are undercharged, so of course they have lower rates of crime. And all of those stupid stats you keep using are operating off a small sample size. So shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up.
Cope.
Unbelievable cope. I mean, the statistic most people look at is not black crime in general, but black murders. And we can take the murderers, go through case by case, and you tell me which one is totally innocent.
Well, that's the thing. In America, these are the FBI crime statistics. So when they're like, well, you're using small sample size. What, the entire population of the United States? I think that's a big enough sample size. And black communities don't have higher rates of crime because they're over-policed?
That's not how crime works.
No.
Strangely enough, the police don't make the crime usually.
White communities don't have lower rates of crime because they're under-policed. That's just not how that works. Massive cope from Generation Z TikTokers.
I wonder how this rule works. Like, if you put 1,000 police officers in one neighborhood, does everyone just start killing each other?
Yeah, exactly. It's riots and things exploding and just gunshots ringing out.
Just happy families just start murdering each other. Why? I saw a policeman.
It's like some sort of Frank Herbert novel or something. Anyway, let's go on to the next one.
Next up, we have Ace Flux.
So Ace Flux is your person. They're going to fluctuate between asexuality and allosexual. So like, it's your person that one day they could be like fully asexual and then the next it could totally change. So this is a person whose sexuality is going to fluctuate on a daily basis. One day they could have crushes on somebody. One day they could be sexually attracted to somebody in some form or degree. And the next day they could be completely just not interested, not wanting anything to do with. So this is your person that's going to be asexual one day in some form or degree of sexual the next. I think that's really interesting. That's very cool, and I love learning about these things as I go along. So if you know anybody who's on the Ace Flux or anything, please tag them, let them know, share it, like, comment. Thank you.
I love the way that this is framed as a sexuality, right? But what have they actually described there? Well, some days I'm horny, some days I'm not.
Yeah.
Some days I've got a headache, just not in the mood. Some days I'm up for it.
I see you're right, though. This stuff should be spammed to every member of the Equality Department and
Oh,
every
absolutely.
leftist who's arguing for Recognition Act or whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just like, right, how do you stand against this?
Yeah. So, are you an allosexual or are you a Tyrannosaurus? I love that joke. Anyway, let's go on to homelessness, I think it is.
What if we stopped saying homeless, we stopped saying people experiencing houselessness, and said people displaced by capitalism?
Big brain thought. How do we explain people who are homeless during feudalism, though?
How do we explain people who are homeless in the Soviet Union?
How do we explain people who are homeless before the invention of houses?
How do we explain the one country that did end homelessness? North Korea. And how did they do it? They made sure that you couldn't buy food. You had to have a residence.
But seriously, so the capitalism to them is some sort of overarching evil god that existed even before houses existed and must have therefore been responsible for the entire population of the earth being homeless.
I live in a capitalist society. If I go home and slit my throat, capitalism did this.
Yes.
It's like, no, you did this.
Right, well, let's get on some cope about why the black community hates Asians.
The widespread animosity between
Texas
Asian
Follies.
people and black people is probably one of the sneakiest tricks ever pulled to uphold white supremacy. I've seen a lot of black people scoff at the idea that the black community should stand in solidarity and support of the Asian community right now. And to justify this, they say, oh, Asian people don't like us, they don't help us, why should we help them? And the answer is quite simple, because white people don't want us to. It's the same reason that white people pit black men against black women or light-skinned people against dark-skinned people. Because we're a lot easier to control when we're divided. The anti-black and anti-Asian sentiments in our respective communities didn't develop organically, they were put there. They're the product of systems of white supremacy specifically designed to keep people of color disenfranchised in this country. We need to build bridges and stand with the Asian American community and to start dismantling the anti-Asian hatred within ourselves. Because it gets us nowhere, it weakens us both, and there is no question that we would all be stronger together.
Why did you beat up this Asian grandma? Well, you know, redlining in the 40s.
Let me talk to you about Jim Crow. So, I mean, that is just a massive cope I love about that. It's like, right, so white people did this. It didn't happen organically. Somehow they introduced it, but it is all within us, and we've got our reasons for hating Asian people. It's because they don't like us. That's why we hate them, and that's the white man's fault.
I wonder what his position was on the blacks who keep attacking Jews as well.
Well, I imagine that the white supremacy has a lot to answer for, Callum.
That's right.
but this, I love that, you know, white people don't want us to get along. No, they really do. They really do. They really would like you all to just be nice and polite and follow the rules. I mean, you know, I'm not a white American, but I'm guessing that almost all of them would agree to that. I swear to God. Anyway, let's
also, just one thing to mention, like, I know this is just like, oh, you young people. Yeah, it was just people on college campuses, wasn't it? These goddamn morons and their ideology currently infest every institution in the West. And it's not going to get better, is it?
The army, the government, every corporation, everywhere you go, and we had to have legal decisions to say that actually you're allowed to believe that women have vaginas.
Yeah, but the current government is currently at, what is it, like 2012 Tumblr?
Yeah.
That clock of progress isn't going to stop.
No, they've got a lot of catching up to do. Eventually, we'll get things like this.
I describe myself as agender because internally, when I think of me, I don't associate me with any gender. And not in a way that's like, I could go any way, I'm cool with all pronouns. I am specifically no thank you to gender. A lot of people would say, but you look so femme! I know! It's useful sometimes. I grew out my hair this long because I've been a performer for 6 years, and I found that I got better tips when I flipped my hair around, so I look that way. But when I think inside and I introspect about what I want from gender, powerful, intimidating, biblically accurate angel. I don't really feel gender euphoria at all. I just don't want it. For me, gender isn't a part of my identity. Gender is a tool that I use to get what I want. If you're following along and questioning your identity at home, take a second to think about what exactly you want from gender and what part of it gives you euphoria. And like and follow for more gender fuckery from this series this week as we talk about movement and gender presentation and the moment that I started questioning my gender.
Obviously a woman. Don't care what your opinion on gender is.
God, I only grow my hair out for my my work. Like, yeah, but you're doing TikToks. That's not work. And yet you're still doing all the female signifiers.
I think she might have been a stripper or something. And so
empowered.
Very empowered. We're sex positive around here, Callum. But obviously, but I love the term gender euphoria. Now, as I understand it, that's meant to be some sort of pleasurable feeling that you get from when you're recognized as a gender or something like this. And it's like, okay, don't care. Like, you're obviously a woman, and even if you're not like, oh, I'm thrilled about being a woman, it doesn't matter. Anyway, moving on.
Sorry, did they get hit?
This is a reminder.
Apparently.
That non-asexual aromantic and allosexual aromantic are not always interchangeable.
What?
Non-asexual aromantic includes identities such as my own. I'm not asexual, but I'm not allosexual either. My experiences are going to be very different from an allosexual aromantic person's.
Totally different.
I think it's just important if you're an ally who's talking about aromantic issues, if you're talking about allosexual aromantic issues, make sure to say allosexual aromantic. There's nothing wrong with that term. Just saying non-asexual aromantic also includes other aromantic people who might not experience sexual attraction but still don't identify as asexual. Just something to keep in mind.
Breaking new frontiers in identity. Important stuff. Oh, I know. We're totally different. Totally different. I know that we might seem exactly the same in every single way, but we're totally different, guys. And this is really important moral legislation from a child.
You know what really hurts? Is everyone's thinking it. All right, when their parents see that, they're just going to be like, right, I got to teach my child some lessons. You know what's sad? I bet they're in California, and I bet the parents are like, stunning and brave.
Of course they are. For anyone who's wondering, I looked up what allosexual means. It's actually nothing to do with dinosaurs, so I'm not interested in it. But it refers to people who do not identify as asexual. That is, people who regularly experience sexual attraction regardless of their sexual orientation. Asexual, in contrast, refers to people who experience little or no sexual attraction. As a counterpart to asexual, the word allosexual helps normalize and destigmatize asexuality in society. So I've come away from that not knowing what the hell they're supposed to be talking about.
It's a subversion term. It is just to make normal people not the norm because just want to make them chaos, don't I?
Yes.
This is why I call them the cult of chaos. Like the whole 40k like scene. Like the chaos faction does actually work. These
Absolutely, God save the emperor. Anyway, let's hear about what being demisexual is.
You bagged him. I'm demisexual. I only feel sexual attraction when I form an emotional connection. If there's no strong bond, it's not an option. Get to know me. I'm demisexual.
So normal?
Is that right wing meme?
I don't know.
It kind of seems like Super Straight, where it's like, is this a troll?
Yeah, I only want to have sex with someone I'm in love with, like a traditional woman.
I'm woman sexual.
I mean, we've literally returned to tradition via demisexuality. Anyway, let's get a lecture on misogyny.
Okay, you guys know how we talked about how white people have all been psychologically conditioned to be racist, and they have to actively unlearn that conditioning to be anti-racist. The same thing applies with cisgendered men. All men have been psychologically conditioned to be misogynistic under our patriarchal society, which is why they struggle to see women as multifaceted human beings. Why you see those men who change once they have a daughter, they're like, oh yeah, we really need to protect women. I have a daughter. Because their daughter breaks out of the Madonna complex, isn't viewed as like a mammy figure, but also isn't viewed as a whore. But then again, let's go even deeper. The daughter's still viewed as something that can be controlled. And once those daughters start to break out of that control and think for themselves, often they get mistreated by their fathers. Because now his manhood is threatened by her intelligence. And that's just one example. Men need to actively unlearn their misogyny.
What the like, if you have a daughter and you're careful about you don't want her to get raped, that's you being intimidated by her intelligence.
That's her undermining your masculinity with her intelligence.
You know what this reminds me of? You know that scene from GTA 5 where I think it's at Franklin's house, like his mother and his jogging partner goes out and they're like, we are women, we are strong. And then Trevor just turns up and goes, shut up. Yeah. Yeah.
That's basically how I felt about it. And just to be clear, I don't know what she's withering about, but if your daughter's doing something of which you disapprove, as a father, you should stop her doing it.
Don't make yourself hate your children.
No, and don't allow your children to be taken away by this stuff. And it's tough; they don't like it. But anyway, the real question of the hour is: what is a woman? Here's one TikToker to help us with that.
Okay, can someone help me out with this? Because I'm confused. I am a woman. I identify as a woman. I feel comfortable in being a woman. But, like, what the fuck is a woman? Like, if someone asked me, what does being a woman mean to you? I wouldn't have an answer. Don't even try to tell me that, well, being a woman is being empathetic and kind and compassionate, because that could be anybody. Anybody could be those things. Don't even bother being transphobic in my comments, saying that, oh, well, being a woman is having a uterus and having kids, because no. Don't even bother saying that being a woman means having biddies and having a vagine, because no. Also, no, wrong. So I'll ask the question again. What is a woman? Like, I feel so comfortable identifying as a woman, but is that only because that's just what I've always been? That's what people always told me that I was, so I just went with it? And the thing that's frustrating with this question is that everyone's answer is always, well, it depends on the person. And I get that, I know, but I'm trying to figure it out for myself, and I don't know. And I mean, I'm a gender abolitionist, so, like, abolish gender, you know? But some people feel very validated in their labels and in their gender. So I'm strictly speaking for myself. I don't know what being a woman means to me. Anyone else?
So, I don't know what a woman is. I'm going to refuse any biological connection to a person's body with their womanhood.
But I know the intersectional versions don't make any sense.
They don't make any sense, and I can't understand from their view what a woman is, because they don't define what a woman is. Also, I want to abolish what a woman is.
Well, she wanted to abolish all gender.
Yes.
So, like, well, what is transitioning then?
Yes. But also, what's a woman if you want to abolish it? What's the point in worrying about what the definition is if you're getting rid of it? Like, you know, it's just...
also, she's a woman. I mean, abolish yourself first, love.
Yeah, exactly. She'd have to abolish it herself. But that's the point, isn't it? These poor people have been left totally unable to form a coherent view of the world around them.
And there are probably millions upon millions of these poor souls at this point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, this isn't just...
They're all over TikTok.
The meme of the Tumblr fringe. Like, Jesus Christ, there are...
Yep.
These people keep coming out of the woodwork in every scandal in public life now. There's always somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, let's hear about a lecture about capitalism.
But if they raise the minimum wage, how do I keep my business open? Then go out of business. That's capitalism. It's the free market, supply and demand. Where is your demand, baby girl? Sorry, no one wants your racist 50s Americana.
That's right. Capitalism is when the government ruins you. Capitalism is when the government means that you can't afford to hire people. Peak capitalism. Much capitalism. It's the most capitalism, in fact. When the government has more interference than anything else in your business, that's capitalism. According to millennials on TikTok.
The most capitalist country in existence.
Absolutely. Yeah. North Korea is the peak example of capitalism.
Yeah, but in China, for capitalism.
I guess so. China actually has successful businesses in it. That's
Very
not capitalism. Yeah, it's typical. Anyway, and of course, communism is wonderful.
Yeah, so this guy asked for a video on why communism is good, and in a part 2 comment, he said that he thinks a lot of people just equate communism with North Korea, USSR, stuff like that, and that's a bad thing. You also don't have to apologize for any ignorance for being liberal. I grew up Christian conservative before I found leftism. Communism is good because true Marxist communism is as close to a utopia as we can get. The reason you equate communism with North Korea and that's a bad thing is because of Western propaganda, capitalism, McCarthyism, Red Scare.
That's it.
The capitalists over your head want you to think that it's bad so they can keep their capitalism. The Marxist definition of communism is a stateless, classless, moneyless society. That definition has never been reached in the real world, unless you count all of human history up to the last couple thousand years. No working 60 hours a week to have food in your stomach and a roof over your head, accessible healthcare, and free to do anything you want to do without the chains of money.
All right. I've probably consumed more North Korean propaganda than anyone in this office.
The North Koreans.
And the North Koreans are very, very explicit about how socialist they are.
What I love about this is he's again, fantasizing, Rousseau style, about the wonderful condition of mankind before civilization occurred. You know, money, trade, property, all those sort of things. People didn't work 60-hour weeks, Callum. They didn't work. I mean, they buried sort of like 3 out of 5 children. But they didn't work 60-hour weeks. And they also starved to death often. Too. Yeah, absolutely. They would also starve to death, get eaten by wild animals, etc., etc. But
they would dig up their corpses and eat them as well.
But they weren't capitalists.
So at least they were free.
At least they were free. Amazing. Gotta love TikTok. I feel bad for what's happened to these children. And they are children.
Because it's kind of the thing, like, I'm agreeing with Michael Malice at this point, where it's sort of just like, well, the whole thing's... Because you look at the next generation, it's this ideology shows no signs of stopping.
No. And the people who have been indoctrinated into it have not got the tools to understand why the things that are happening to them are happening. And so everything that
No imagination.
Not even that. No constructive thinking. So they can't look at something and extrapolate like any kind of theory from it. They've been indoctrinated in theory and have to project that onto everything that happens. So now hunter-gatherers are the peak communists. So the Sentinelese are the peak communists. And, capitalism is, the iPhone he's recording that on is a form of oppression.
Yeah, the Workers' Party of Korea, capitalist.
Yeah.
The Socialist Congress, capitalist.
But it's these people who are going to suffer when this all comes crashing down, because this isn't going to last forever. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.